Hello learners, welcome to your favorite e-learning platform Pathshala. I'm Savita Chauhan, your mathematics mentor. Let's just start a new chapter today which is called as the Introduction to Euclids Geometry. So let's just start with the definition of geometry. That what is the meaning of geometry? So actually the word geometry comes from the Greek word ged meaning earth and metron means to measure. It means the word geometry is actually connecting itself from the earth. So we can say that a geometry word actually comes from the Greek words that are two words which is ged and metron, which means the earth and the measure. So what we can conclude from this particular definition is the geometry appears to have originated from the need for the measuring land. So it actually appears or it originated from the need for the measuring land. So if we are connecting or we are talking about the word geometry, so actually we are connecting with the earth. So let's just talk about this geometry, that this branch of mathematics was actually studied in various forms in ancient civilization, like in Egypt, like if we are talking about the Babylonia, if we are talking about China, if we are talking about India, Greece and many more. So actually the people from all these civilizations have actually faced a lot of practical problems which definitely need the development of geometry in various forms. So let us suppose if we'll start studying about the developments in the Egypt. So in Egypt, Egyptians developed a number of geometric techniques and the rules for calculating the simple areas and for doing simple construction. So if we are talking about Egypt, then the Egyptians definitely developed a lot of or a number of the geometric techniques and the rules for calculating the simple areas and also for doing the simple construction. So the knowledge of geometry or if we can say they use the knowledge of geometry to find out the volume of the granaries, or if they just wanted to find the volume of a truncated pyramid. So all of these formulas are already known by them. They are all aware about that how they can find the volume of such kind of a truncated pyramid. So as you know, what is the meaning of pyramid? So this is nothing but a truncated pyramid, and the Egyptians, they knew about how they can find the volume of this truncated pyramid. So further, if I'm talking about in India, so in the Indian subcontinent, excavation at the Harappa and if I'm talking about the Mohenjo-daro, so all these excavation actually showed that the Indus Valley civilization made extensive use of geometry, because as you can see, it was a very highly organized society and the cities were really highly developed and very well planned. For example, if I'm talking about the roads, the roads were actually parallel to each other. As you can see over here, the roads were actually parallel to each other. And all these things actually shows us that the town dwellers were skilled in mensuration and practical arithmetic. So as you can see from this example, the roads were parallel to each other. They have an underground drainage system and they do have the rooms, or they have the rooms which are of different types. So such management actually shows that the town dwellers were really skilled in mensuration and the practical arithmetic. Moreover, the bricks that are used for the construction were kiln fired, and the ratio, that is the length, breadth and thickness of the bricks, was actually found to be 4:2:1. So if we are talking about the further Babylonia, in Babylonia the geometry remained a very practical oriented discipline, as was the case in India, as was the case in Rome. So in Babylonia the geometry was remained as a very practically oriented discipline. So if we are talking about about the Egyptian, so the Egyptian, or if we are talking about in Egypt, the geometry developed by the Egyptians mainly consisted of the statement of the result. There was only consisted, or we can say in the Egyptian, or in the Egypt, the Egyptians mainly consisted of the statements of the result. There is no general uses of the procedure. So if we are talking about both of these together, so both use the geometry most for the practical purposes only, and did very little to develop it as a systematic science, because they were only using the geometry for the practical purposes. They actually do not into developing it into a systematic science. Now let us suppose, if I'm talking about further Greece, so the Greek people put more emphasis on the reasoning behind why certain construction work and how it works. They were more concerned about these kind of things, that what is the reason behind the construction of the things. So the Greeks were interested in establishing the truth of the statements rather than using it in a practical purposes. They are more into establishing the truth of the statement. They discovered using the deductive reasoning. So this is all about the Greek people, that they put more emphasis in establishing the truth of the statement, that why the things occur and what are the reasons behind the construction of the work. And they discovered all these things using the deductive reasoning. So this is all about the India, or if I'm talking about the Babylonia, if I'm talking about the Greece, if I'm talking about in Rome, and all together. So let's just talk about the introduction to the Euclid's geometry. So as we know that the Greeks were really very interested in finding out the things, that how the construction work, what are the reasons behind each and everything. So by deductive reasoning, obviously. So at that particular time, a Greek mathematician who is actually called as Thales was credited with his very well-known first proof, and that is the circle is bisected by its diameter. And after that, one of the most famous pupil of Thales, whose name is Pythagoras, he with his group discovered many geometric properties and developed the theory of geometry to a great extent. So actually this process goes on till 300 BCE, when or we can say a teacher of mathematics whose name was Euclid, he actually collected all the known works all together, and he called them as treatise. He called them as treatise, which is actually called as, or moreover called as, nothing but elements. And then he further divided the elements into the 13 chapters, and each is actually called as nothing but book. And these books influence the whole world's understanding of geometry for generations to come. So let's just see the Euclid's approach towards the geometry, and let's just connect it with the real geometry that nowadays we are using.